What was it like in the location you were brought up in as a child, such as schools, available activities around you, what you did for fun, that sort?
Okay. So, I can just start out with saying I was raised in St. Louis, Missouri. My family was small, mom and dad and myself and two sisters. And I was really just in the middle of World War II. I mean, it was just starting. So gasoline was rationed along with the sugar, the meat, and the butter.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just tell you that my dad was raised on a farm, and he spent his youth farming and hunting. And so my parents were kind of, well, they're middle-class people. Daddy worked hard, and he worked many long hours. And what we did for fun was, in the summertime, my sisters and I would go swimming at the local pool. There wasn't a whole lot to do. There weren't big amusement parks like we have today. It was entirely different growing up, really, because our family unit went to church on Sunday, and Mom would put the roast in the oven before we went to church, and we'd come back with that roast smelling wonderful. And we had ice delivered to the house. I mean, it's that old. I'm that old, but I had a wonderful childhood. My dad, quite often in the wintertime, he would come home after work and tie the snow sleds on the top of the car, because we had a lot of snow in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And we go sleigh riding over at Ark Hill in the park. And it was fun. We had a lot of family things that we did. And growing up, Daddy was being on the farm. He was quite good with a rifle and pistol, and we would go up the river to Hannibal, Missouri, and get fish. It was just an outing for us. We would all pile in the car, and then we'd stop for a picnic along the way. And quite often, he would just pull out the guns, and we'd shoot in cans in the river. And we're doing a lot of family things.
You mentioned that you had ice brought to you, so y'all didn't have an ice maker in your refrigerator?
Well, actually, we had an ice box in the refrigerator. Then later on, as we got older, we had a refrigerator that made ice, made ice cubes. Mm-hmm. But, very early, I can remember them putting a sign in the window telling how much ice we needed for the ice box. That's what it was called, an ice box. So it kept things cold, but of course it wasn't. We didn't have a freezer until I was older.
Okay. So what do you think of all the technological advances since you were a child to now?
Well, so much has happened since I was raised. My gosh. I mean, we didn't have that many airplanes when I was growing up. Everything, and of course, nothing like computers. And when I was about 12 or 13, we had our first TV. So look at the things that have happened in our world. In the past century, there's so many things that came about that I got to see happen. Mm-hmm. Growing up like I did in the era that I grew up in.
Oh yeah.
No cell phones. There was no such thing as cell phones. And everything has changed since I grew up. Modesty today is just lost with the TV programs and all the sex and all the sex is the thing today, and it just upsets me because I wasn't raised like that.
So is everyone hush about things like that?
I'm sorry?
Was everyone hush about things like that? It just wasn't a topic?
We didn't talk about sex when I was growing up. In fact, my parents didn't talk to me about, ladies and men and sex, and nothing was said. I mean, I guess I learned through my girlfriends, what we thought was happening.
Yeah.
But today, everything is so out in the open, and it's kind of sad because the pride and self modesty is just lost in the people today. And, I still think that the family has broken up. So I'm a divorced person. I raised my boys by myself, and it was hard. because I didn't have a man there. And everybody today gets divorced, and they think nothing of staying with a man and making it work and getting through the rough times. My parents were in love with each other, but they had arguments.
Mhm.
And today, you get an argument and you get a divorce.
Yeah.
And that's pretty hard for me to really realize. And you know what else is so sad about today? I think there's so many people that rely on government. There's no pride in earning a living and making a business work. You go on the government dole. I mean, you get food stamps and Social Security when today, when my parents were growing up, I mean, everybody worked hard. We had a war. People had to work and make things go. Today, it's just throwaway. Everything's throwaway. When you think about it, the kids today don't even talk anymore. They text each other.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as social interaction by talking and developing, ability to speak well. Today, everything is on the computer and the cell phones where you have abbreviations for even writing. People today don't know how to write.
Yeah.
They don't know how to express themselves on paper. There's no personal interaction, and that means talking, communicating by the mouth, by words. It's just all by your fingers. The fingers do the walking and the talking.
I'm Alicia Sheen, and I interviewed Barbara Dunkley, who is an old friend of the family. And she was born in 1939, so her information will be coming from the 1940s to present day. And I asked her basic questions like the differences she's noticed from generation to generation regarding respect to elders, manners, and clothing. And what I could gather is basically everything's changed, and the dynamism of everything and unstandardized multiple variation, because things such as clothing, it's made the same way and with the same material, but the styles and the way people wear it are very different and much more revealing, as she has said. And this is a first personal narrative of folklore. And during the interview process, I could just tell it was like I was being transformed from our time and place to a completely different world almost, just because everything she said I couldn't relate to really in any type of way. They would have ice delivered to them back in the 1940s, and the clothing they wore was the complete opposite of what we have now almost. And really what I could tell is generation itself is unstandardized multiple variation to the utmost, because we've all wear clothes, obviously, and it's all made the same way like I was saying, but it's almost more attributed to sex and such as a topic of her and I that we discussed. It really got in depth about that, because girls especially wear clothes more revealing, and during her time she said she wouldn't even wear cleavage showing or a V or anything, and nowadays that's pretty common. It's just about all you see. And so the times have really changed, and the folklore of it all is just completely different almost, and she really helped me understand that. And I also, during the process, realized how lucky I am to be in such an advanced era in time. And it's from her time to now, it's just improved so much, and everyone should be very grateful. And I'm very glad that we interviewed her, or I interviewed her, so I could realize that. And I know I will not take it for granted now.